to CETS presentation at the UN General Assembly. I am Peggy Dodson, President, CEO of UBC TV. We are an urban media technology broadcast company. UBC TV is a strategic partner with CETS, and I will be your moderator for the next today and tomorrow. Yesterday we had a wonderful, wonderful session, and today is going to be just as awesome. And I promise you, you would want to attend all of these sessions. So before we start, I'm going to do a little housekeeping. We do have a booth with white papers. If you go down to the pavilion, you'll see the CETS booth. We are a sponsor. CETStechnology.com is our website. And we have CETS TV on the UBC TV platform. You can go there and you will see a lot of our strategic partners and members there. Please feel free to network with everyone engaged. This is what this is all about. This is what it's all about. So what we're going to do, we're going to have each person or an organization will have 10 minutes to talk about their company and their relationship with CETS. And then from there, we will have a roundtable discussion with everyone. So I'm very, very excited about this morning's topic, which is about corporate green bond funding. Because you can have the greatest idea in the world, but without the money, it doesn't work. So, CETS has brought together strategic partners to help prepare and position participants in CETS Global Carbon Emissions Reduction Program, providing private sector funding for CETS decentralized net zero circular economy, B2G, B2B, B2C product production, and trade hub infrastructure development projects. Vincent I. White, Gerald DaCosta, co-founders of CETS Waste to Energy and Technologies, serving as preferred international developer of Sustainable Development Goals, SDG, through environmental, social, and governance, EGS asset investments for the implementation of its ESG corporate green climate bond investments for government participation in its global carbon emissions reduction program. So that's a mouthful, but it's all about setting the money up and how do we pay for this? How do we create funding? So we're going to go, I start with Vincent and Gerald. Let's discuss the role an international developer of sustainable goals for the environment.
Yes, Vincent White. I'm an architect for over 30 years plus mechanical and industrial engineering experience as well. And look at how do we finance this transition in a most effective manner possible. So what we end up doing is collaborating and structuring as a developer of ESG investment opportunities. When we go into a community, we want to do what we call an asset-based assessment, looking at the natural assets, the human capital of a region to be able to quantify those assets to be placed on a digital ledger that could serve as collateral to back our corporate green bonds to help nation states, governments participate in a global carbon emissions reduction program. That's a mouthful in itself, but as a developer, what we're trying to do is position ourselves as that preferred developer in a public-private partnership scenario, whereby we will bring the expertise, the capacity, the innovation, and the technology necessary to leverage the natural resources and human capital of a community. Train them and prepare them to participate in their own revitalization. Part of the capital necessary in structuring a green bond scenario, it's all about transparency, being able to track the whole process to make sure no greenwashing is going on. So when we come in and utilize the waste streams of a community and track it and quantify it and make it bankable to finance the use of that resource, that raw material, to go into an economic sustainable structure that can support the growth and sustainability of one's economic platform. So what I've organized is a team of experts that can help us carry out that mission and position and prepare nation states and communities to be a bankable scenario where the money that's sitting on the sidelines will feel comfortable coming in and participating. Because these governments right now, because of this virus, budgets are upside down. They don't have a clue or have the financial wherewithal to finance the necessary transformation that's necessary to be able to meet their demands and make their commitments set at the Paris Accord. This is the decade for implementation, and we're presenting a plan of action to make that happen in a way to finance that transition where it does not encumber their budgets currently, but we're infusing corporate dollars to be able to make that happen, private sector dollars to make that happen. So I'm going to pass that over to Gerald to kind of put his 2 cents in. And I really want to showcase our partners and how we're all making the connection to create that circular financial infrastructure necessary to set the stage for this transition. Gerald?
Okay, great. Gerald, Peggy,
I think you have an echo. You have some feedback.
I don't know where that's coming from.
It just stopped.
Okay, great. Gerald DaCosta, IT technologist and economist with about 30 years of working on IT, cybersecurity, infrastructure projects. As Vince, I don't want to kind of go over a lot of what Vince has already covered, but we position CETS as developers of SDG, ESG asset investments. And we're recruiting participants to work within our eco villages to bring value to our circular economy paradigm, which requires us to use the labor force as assets. Much of our efforts lately has been researching how to monetize these important projects. Nobody, to our knowledge, has been able to quantify this human capital to become bankable for private infrastructure development for securing 1.5D in green bond implementation. By capturing and quantifying those human capital skills as bookable assets, this brings value to our circular economy paradigm. Human capital is being undervalued and not captured or valued correctly at all. Mm-hmm. So given our asset-based assessment, as Vince has mentioned on the front end, we may more readily mobilize the labor force already existing in our database for projects because we know that the exact skill sets needed for the Eco Village project to be funded. If outside help is needed locally, we may pull from the surrounding region. That's why it's important for us to get this database of human capital and the skill sets that we need. The needs assessment will help us know what it will take to implement, operate, and manage each of our projects. We'll be collecting valuable data across the board of both human and natural resources, such that no demographic sector is left behind, ensuring that all who wish to participate become stakeholders in the revitalization efforts of their own communities and their own regions. We have the technological solutions to address the waste streams and to leverage them in such a way that we not only solve some of the more pressing and waste and environmental problems, but also to use them in such a way to stimulate and even revitalize the regions in which we'll be operating. Peggy, as you had mentioned, the challenge has been to package these projects in such a way that is palatable to investors, since we are bringing private sector dollars to address public problems. The last leg of our efforts, after figuring out the technical answers by integrating synergistic technologies, is scaling those technologies, and that requires our projects to be bank ready. The last mile or hurdle to any great idea is financing. Our call to action is for involvement from governments, municipalities, NGOs, and other grassroots organizations, as well as citizen stakeholders in our Eco Village projects. We're looking for 100 governments, including nation states and municipalities, to partner and participate with us in public-private partnerships by bringing their natural resources and waste concessions to the table, placed on a global digital ledger to begin the transition to a net zero carbon footprint, region by region, and one sustainable eco village at a time. We've got some very brilliant strategic partners here that are bringing their technologies and expertise to our eco village projects that are fundamental in our ability to package them to become bankable and tradable assets on an underlying SDG digital architecture platform. As developers of ESG investments, Vince and I are excited to have them present with us today. And with that, Peggy, I will turn it back over to you.
Okay. Well, this is very exciting. I'm here to introduce Daryl Taylor and Russell Lima. They're co-founders of NVZN. Is that it? Serving as a strategic partner to implement its NVZN solution for tracking and life cycle management program. NVZN is an ERC20 platform-based utility token designed for tracking and life cycle management of our strategic partners' waste to renewable projects. This is a very, very turnkey and important part of the whole process of monetization. So who wants to start first? We're going to go with Daryl. Tell us about your company and what do you see the issues facing the market and its impact, and what impact your solution will have on investments as CETS prepares communities globally for this transition into a net zero circular economy production and trade hub platform. You want to start with Daryl? Would you like to start first?
Yes, thank you, Peggy. Hello, everyone.
You're welcome.
My name is Daryl Taylor. I am the co-founder and CEO of NVZN. And NVZN and CETS technologies were founded on one important principle of being solution-oriented and solution-focused. The first step to solving any problem is first identifying that there is one. Waste is one of those global problems that we're experiencing today. The World Bank estimates right now that 3.4 billion metric tons of waste will actually end up increasing by the time 2050 actually arrives. 5.5% of that waste is actually being composted. And until we actually address this problem, waste is going to continue to be a threat, a public threat to our society. Now, the thing is that this has human lives attached to it, and it must be addressed immediately. But one thing we have to understand is that pollution doesn't recognize national borders. And what may happen on what may seem as a micro level is ultimately going to affect the entire world. Carbon emissions in one city contribute to global climate change. Electricity that's used to power our homes are powered by fossil fuels. And we're all responsible for this pollution. One of the most striking examples I've talked about time and time before is actually the case of DDT. Now, this pesticide was banned in the 1970s, but the 1.5 million tons of this pesticide that were dumped into groundwater between the 40s and the 70s, they're still being found around oceans today. Now, although environmental pollution is a problem, and some countries are more affected by it than others, but the developed countries produce the most waste. But we're also better equipped, being in the United States today, but we're better equipped to deal with it. And waste in these countries rarely becomes a direct threat to the public health. Now, developing countries, however, don't have the sophisticated waste management techniques, and waste has become a serious threat to the health. Landfills are becoming a hotbed for the insects, the vermin, all these different parasites and infectious disease, toxic chemicals from waste residue. These all cause long-term health issues. Now, as citizens of the world, this is where our responsibility is to empathize wholeheartedly with the struggle of the developing countries and trying their best to deal with the waste problem. Hundreds of millions of people feel threatened by the polluted environments in which they reside and yearn for a trustworthy system that will actually help them live in comforting surroundings. It can't be stressed hard enough for people living in developing countries. The global waste crisis is not about broader scale concepts like carbon emission or climate change. It's an immediate threat that directly affects air that they breathe and also the water that they drink. It's something that must be addressed for the future of society and, more importantly, our children. NVZN finds this current situation we're experiencing right now troubling and, more importantly, unacceptable. The access to proper waste management should be treated as not only as a basic utility, but as a basic human right. Waste is a global problem that demands immediate and effective change and action, and particularly for these developing countries around the world. Fortunately, with the power of technology and strong partnerships with special thanks to CETS Technologies, along with Luna, Digitizing Assets, and BitXme, and Aerobotics, as NVZN and the team, we have found a solution. And a major part of environmental pollution is lack of waste management, specifically the waste tracking. Now, even in a technologically advanced country, tracking waste is still a manual or semi-manual process, which means that it is subject to possibility of human error or ill will. Now, waste is often misplaced and dumped into rivers or left on landfills intentionally for simply the profitability sake, lack of infrastructure, or even loose regulations. And mishandling of waste is something that happens everywhere, even in the developed countries. Let's take, for example, one of the infamous related incidents that's happened in history. And in the 1960s, that was Ford Motor Company. Where Ford Motor Company dumped more than 35,000 tons of toxic paint sludge into the lands of Ringwood, New Jersey, and poisoning the groundwater with arsenic, lead, other harmful chemicals. Decades later, the contaminants dumped into groundwater supplies will still threaten a watershed that's 2.5 million residents, which is a quarter state's population. Now, children used to play in the sludges of bright paints and debris in the landfill, and that's 100 times more toxic than the advised safety levels of the lead. Years later, numerous families are still being affected by high rates of cancer and other adverse health issues that are in the region. Now, what happened in New Jersey and the northeast of the country still happens to this very day. And let's not deceive ourselves, it will continue actually to happen, ladies and gentlemen, until we make an extreme change. The only way to stop this once and for all, however, is to tackle the core of the problem and implement a solution. To help me better explain NVZN's use of our decentralized ledger, none other than our Chief Architect Officer and also the co-founder of NVZN, Russell Lima.
Thanks, Daryl. Thanks, Peggy. I'm Russ Lima. I'm the co-founder and architect for NVZN. NVZN is revolutionizing the waste industry by tracking waste on a decentralized ledger from the birth throughout its final destination. Smart contracts on the blockchain integrated with the Internet of Things solutions will basically remove all human possible errors. When waste is produced, a digital tracking asset is created with a certificate of origin and a batch number. From there, every movement of the batch of waste can easily be recorded on the ledger with the help of IoT devices. Using IoT to track packages is pretty much standard practice for people like Amazon, UPS, and others. What we're doing here at NVZN is we're aiming to apply this concept to the tracking of waste, all while making it easier and more efficient with the decentralized cryptographic solutions. Important information associated with each one of the shipments or batches is secured on the decentralized ledger using smart contracts. Now here's where the cryptographic advantages of NVZN's method come in handy. The smart contracts can be independently audited, but they cannot be forged, modified, or in any way tampered with. Everything is transparent, and nobody can cheat the system by disposing of waste in a way that is harmful, because we already know the route it's taking. Waste is tracked with NVZN, has no other option but end up being used in a responsible and eco-friendly way. The current method, as Daryl mentioned, of waste tracking is outdated, which can lead to hazardous handling of the waste. With NVZN, mishandling of waste becomes virtually impossible. The whole process is automated, waste tracking becomes transparent and immune to tampering. Envision does not just offer a vague solution, but a coherent concept to support these by solid data. Tracking of waste with our method could result in up to a 30% reduction in carbon emissions by increasing efficiency that not only reduces operating costs, greenhouse gas emissions, it also lowers the financial cost of getting rid of waste. In addition, Envision's partners are providing with an economic incentive for properly handling of the waste, which will ensure a faster adoption of the waste management techniques. Well, there's one aspect of Envision's method of waste tracking that is particularly important to developing nations. Jointly with CETS technologies, we'll be bringing not only tracking of the waste, but the ability to provide a circular way of processing the waste. Instead of waste being tracked into landfills or possibly being lost, it ends up in the CETS mobile hybrid waste energy solutions. These stations intake any waste material and turn it into energy that is patented and completely environmentally safe. Not leaving behind any harmful byproducts like gases, solids, or airborne carcinogens. In fact, the main byproducts are clean water, power, and materials that can be used in manufacturing in their eco-villages, which is huge. It's game-changing, right? You're talking about a Jetsons world here, zero waste. And that's, in fact, the main byproduct of water is why it's very important also to developing countries. You know, so Envision is solving with CETS, solving three problems: disposal of waste, renewable energy production, and access to clean water. I want to stress the importance of that last part. Not only are we turning waste into energy, but we're also able to give people access to clean drinking water. In a world affected by global warming, where water shortages keep affecting more and more people, the ability to extract clean water from waste means the difference between life and death. The problem with waste is a serious global threat, but fortunately, Envision has the answer. It's something more than just a vision, it's a complete solution that deals with waste from the moment it's produced to the moment it's turned into renewable energy. We can no longer stand by and watch developing countries suffer through these global waste problems. Envision started nothing more than a dream about a cleaner, greener, brighter future, but now we're finally a reality, a glimmer of hope. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Russ. That is really awesome. And you guys, Envision, you are the linchpin, because the technology that you are presenting, the way that you're using it, is just phenomenal. It is phenomenal. It is the thing that's going to make everything else pivot. And speaking of pivot, now we're talking about, I'm going to introduce Lindsay Thomas Oliver. How are you, Lindsay, today? He's a managing director of Impact International Secured Investment Limited, serving as strategic partner to provide the development process of creating project green climate bonds for the economic repurposing for the circular economy. This is awesome, Lindsay. This is really exciting. How to save billions utilizing green mining on older mining properties during reclamation. You're in my wheelhouse right now. So Lindsay, tell us about your company, and what do you see as issues facing the market and the impact your solution will have on the CETS SEG Corporate Green Climate Bond for its net zero circular economy infrastructure development project? Have at it. I'm excited.
Yes, certainly. Good day, everybody. As for the name, Impact International Secured Investments Limited, the reason we had to take that long name was that was the only one we could get to get a .com designation. So that's why we had to spread it out. But I think it says everything in the name ourselves as to what we do. At this time, after 6 years of a lot of hard work, a lot of hard lifting, I think I can state with confidence we're the only company in the world that is a one-stop shop to do green bonds in the retail market. We don't work with public companies. We work with smaller to medium-sized firms that want to get green bond issues done, and we take them from start to finish. So we do everything from the marketing package to the pitch decks to the actual writing of the green bond, which we have intellectual property stamp on, a copyright on our method, which we've taken and combined a number of different bond issues and put them together into something that's a little bit more, I would say, understandable and easier for people to chew through. The average length of the bond is about 235 pages. Typical appendices are 300 to 400 pages. So we don't combine both of them anymore. We let them read the bond. If they want to go through the appendices, they're separate. What I will say is that we have spent almost 9 years in and out of looking for mining properties, ones that would be worthwhile for us to do the reclamation on. So what is compelling today is that we see collectively on a global scale that we as a society on a global basis have poorly managed over the last few centuries with regard to the climate, doing most things wrong. I think most of it was without really meaning to, due to the society being unaware in most instances of our overall negative impact globally. A lot of it is not done on purpose. It was done just because they didn't know any better. So I think one of the big things we have to do today for a majority of the mining and manufacturing concerns is to do what the doctors do. Put in an oath that says, in essence, very simply, do no harm. I think if we can do that and move ahead on that following premises, our own green mining division reuses and revitalizes what was previously screwed up on a worldwide basis. In the mining arena, I can state that I'm amazed at the number of old abandoned mines that can be reclaimed, therefore making use of hard work that has been done over the last 150 years. We have to start repurposing. That's going to be one of the biggest words you're going to hear in the next 10 years. We have to take where the waste is. We have to reutilize our waste. We have to reutilize our tailings piles. We have to reutilize things that we've already harmed, reclaim some, make some inert, and revitalize others. The mines like we're talking about, the ones that are there, we're talking about tailings piles. We're not talking about opening new mines. We're talking about taking them, repurposing them, and then that way we get a wealth of new materials out of them again and collateral that is needed to move forward and embolden the circular economy. Because as collateral, we have silver, copper, gold, and a number of other rare minerals that they didn't even look at before that can now all be processed out. So why is this so valuable? Well, because they extracted during their time in their mining time zone only what they thought was valuable to them. And a lot of times it was only lead and other base metals, and they threw everything else back out.
Correct.
So what they did was they caused great harm with their actions. But these are new horizons that we can make use of with all of the labor, sweat, and toil, or whatever they did before, while doing the remediation. We'll be taking out gold. That's our primary metal that we'll be taking out. And because of that, we'll be saving billions of dollars in today's economy. The most expensive part of mining endeavors is moving of material to the processing equipment. That still is and was worth a fortune. So that's a huge cost saving to us in our endeavors. In order to do processing, we can make use of that fact. We can reprocess tailings materials, come away with new materials that are needed today, all while this is being achieved by reclaiming of the minerals available in the hundreds of billions of tons. We know of over 800 million tons of waste material in North America alone. This is a result of the reclamation process. In other words, putting everything back as close as possible to what it was before the original mining took place. That's part of the reclamation. So really, using the old worn out term, that's a win-win scenario for everybody. The one thing I will mention, which I've spent a lot of time and effort on after being exposed to so many different financial scenarios over the last 30 years, and I heard one person use it last week, and I was glad to hear that. And our approach is a key factor we call TTR, time to revenue. Most people still talk about return on investment, all these other things, and that's great. They're still there, but time to revenue means speeding up the permitting process for the mining in our instance. This is in a relation with the sense of urgency. we must all address. I know we all have urgency, but we have to have urgency that, results in action. So when it comes to climate concerns, that's our first and foremost pinnacle, and I would say our ground moving event. Most financing issues, like getting a green bond financed, and over the last 5 years, it's taking on an average of between 2 to 3 years for the majority of green bonds to get financed. And that came out from a study from Environmental Finance magazine. Another 2 years for build out of most projects, and now you're at a 5-year time span. That to me is simply not acceptable. Not at this stage of the climate dilemma. We can't wait 5 years.
That's true.
So what we've engaged to do is to work diligently to get green projects finished within a 2 to 3 year time frame, hopefully with the build out included.
That's incredible.
That is why we need our green mines to start at a fraction of the time that a standard operation would take. So we're trying to increase the output. In reality, we have some considerable time and money to be able to watch our operations anywhere in situ, globally. However, my firm will only do the mining in Western USA and Western Canada. I don't have a sense of adventure internationally, even though I've done business internationally for over 35 years now. But by that way, keeping with the CETS agenda, we have an advanced software platform to keep track of productivity and project management. 95% of all the mines are within a 3 to 4 hour drive of major centers.
Right.
But keeping an overwatch on them is absolutely important for productivity, because when people aren't being watched, and I've seen it over and over and over again, they kind of, settle into a nice, comfortable style and not get the job done. We can watch a mine in the middle of the Yukon 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And we also have the software to do the project management, which is twinned with our office and at the mine. So we virtually know what's going on a daily basis. We'll probably do it weekly or monthly, because daily is a bit too much. You get things done, but not like in a month. All larger operations will be under scrutiny constantly, and to ensure that they are being worked properly and to maximum efficiency. That's extremely important, not just for us, but for getting the collateral to back up the new green projects. This is not a request when it comes to using the oversight and reporting. This is a mandatory service, since we pay for the first 2 years out of our fees upon a successful green bond financing. We won't work with anybody that doesn't do the reporting, because we have our project manager at their site and we have one at our hub. So all of our clients that do green bonds will be doing finance and oversight reporting. This way we are in control, not in a draconian way, but in a complementary way. That we have the reporting oversight features necessary for governance, all the EGS scenarios to ensure it's done and done properly. What impact will we have for the solutions for CETS, the cutting edge techno systems for realizing net zero circular economy going forward? Well, they're multifold. First and foremost, we raise green capital for projects that have to get off the ground as quickly as possible for the good of the globe, that on our own provide many benefits to the circular economy simply by those projects and waste to energy, solar, renewable energy, whatever they may be, by just simply coming online. That way they are helping the overall fight for the climate battle. Our biggest challenge is to get the process working at light speed. And I've been working on that with our team for 3 years now. If we're to make this happen, then we must accelerate the process of funding. I'll repeat that. We must accelerate the process of funding. In turn, the more projects that are genuine that get funded will have huge long-term benefits for the whole world. Our example of the green mining model will use absolutely every advanced technique possible for operations and processing. As an aside, I was in the robotics flexible automation industry for over 17 years. I know where we can use labor. I know where we can use flexible automation. I know where we can use robotics. So it complements employment. You can make more jobs by getting more done in a shorter period of time and providing more capital. What it means to us is we have to use battery-powered vehicles, solar power, advanced processing equipment that use no harmful chemicals, or if they do have a little residual, we take any small amounts and make them totally inert and harmless. We work with 2 leaders in the world for processing with high-end systems. One's EnviroLeach and the other one's called BACTEC. They actually use different ways of breaking down the elements so they're totally within all the parameters that we need to have them in today and do no harm. One central theme in many of the financial discussions during what I've been watching on the UN sessions, and it's been there for years, and it's been an ugly little thing that's been put under the rug, and of course, it's the avoidance of risk duly made in mainstream corruption. In accordance to that, we put into effect a superior reporting and oversight service to prove that we are achieving the goal set out in the cooperation with CETS. In simplicity, as the projects move forward, we can prove how they are doing in tandem with the set out ESG principles. That many previously financed green projects are still not adhering to. This has been a big problem. The projects we help to finance will be doing that from the outset. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. This is really, really awesome to get those mines. There's so many mines here in the U.S. that are just dormant, and they have, you know, all these minerals. So this is really great technology you're talking about, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this is going to be implemented with CETS. So the other part of this whole thing, and this is a lively discussion here, I want to have a lively discussion, is Theo Cosmora. Theo is the banker. So we always have to have bankers involved to make everything come together, because in theory it all works, but we have to have the banker involved. Theo is the director of SDG Foundation. He serves as a strategic partner and advisor. His organization provides an advanced SDG tailored bank grade interoperable digital ledger platform. SDG Ledger facilitates natural resource-backed funding for SDG projects while additionally delivering fully integrated smart city e-commerce supply chain solutions. And I love that smart city thing, Theo. This is, I was waiting for you to come up here because this is going to tie everything up together here as a nice little package. So tell us about your company and what do you see as the issues facing the market and the impact your solution will have on CETS ESG Corporate Green Climate Bond for its net zero circular economy infrastructure development project. Have at it. And
well,
welcome.
Thank you for that marvelous introduction. I'm actually not a banker, and I've never been a banker, but I know one or two bankers, and I know people who have a very strong, considerable understanding of banking, what's good about banking, what's wrong about banking, and how specifically banking can be evolved to meet the challenges that we face ahead of us, especially as we come out of our COVID-19 era. So yes, my name is Theo Cosmora, founder and CEO of SDG Foundation. Very quickly, I'd like to start by saying a big thank you to the UN Global Compact for organizing this event. It's an honor to participate and share what we're doing with the CETS team. Our mission is to enable conscious business, and we define conscious business as a business that is economically sustainable and which in parallel, not as an afterthought, facilitates social empowerment and inclusive economics on a wider scale. I've actually been working around the UN goal since 2010, when I helped UNDESA create a solution for the Millennium Development Goals, or the MDGs. And for my sins, I was given a UN award. Fast forward to 2015 and the SDGs, and we have a figure of $2.5 trillion that's required annually to fund the SDGs. Now, if in 5 years we haven't found this $2.5 trillion with all the resources at hand, We obviously have our things cut out to try and find out, to try and find these $2.5 trillion for the next 10 years to 2030. So we have, at the moment, business is programmed for quarterly financial currency targets. Lots of people to add social currency quarterly targets and environmental currency quarterly targets. We know this would bring massive transformation to our world, and so many people want this. So why is this not yet the norm? Well, our universal SDG ledger does this. Our inspiration for SDG ledger, and this relates directly to the work that the CETS platform and the people behind CETS and around CETS are aiming for, and it actually comes from two quotes presented by the UN, by UNDP. They say greater diversity of finance offers more potential to address the integrated, interconnected nature of sustainable development challenges. And SDG 17, the partnership goal, states the SDGs can only be realized with strong global partnerships and cooperation. So when Vincent White invited me to participate within the CETS team, and I saw how he was bringing these leaders and experts together, it was an honor and pleasure to participate. In this context, SDG Ledger is one of 4 pillars of a universal partnership-based transformation platform called SDG Partners, not surprisingly. And within SDG Partners, there are 4 pillars. Again, universal ledger, a banking system, smart city applications, and supply chain and e-commerce system. All are fully integrated. The ledger itself is a bank-grade, natively interoperable digital ledger that empowers all clients and partners to work and collaborate in one or more SDG use case, which is important, avoiding the limitations of siloed blockchains such as Ethereum blockchain and inefficient bank systems. Our universal ledger enables you to reduce inefficiencies of supply chains and banking systems, massively increase profitability and impact, and significantly expand funding capacity for your organization or network of partners across any and all of the SDGs, and that's important. So 3 of the 6 key features of SDG Ledger include omni-ledger capacity, encapsulation, I'll explain what that means in a second, and interoperability. So SDG Ledger can deploy and present and manage all 3 or any combination of each of centralized ledger, decentralized ledger, and distributed ledger. We all know of blockchain and Bitcoin as an example, the prime mover of blockchain. So that's an example of a distributed ledger. A centralized ledger will be used by a corporation or a bank. A decentralized ledger network is where you have a network of centralized networks, which could be used by a network of banks, for example. Encapsulation is really important in terms of sustainability and business continuity, in terms of how it enables us to benefit from evolution and future developments in our world. Encapsulation intuitively creates a new life forms on the fly that may include many ledger functions designed for specific needs and use cases that emerge over time and which evolve in our future. Interoperability allows newly created encapsulation features that can be distributed across other interconnected ledgers, enabling SDG Ledger to be infinitely scalable across any number of possible future use cases and partnerships, even across other digital ledgers, and that's important. Interoperability is really important as we build the financial platforms of our world. We know, for example, that the Bitcoin blockchain and the Ethereum blockchain are not interoperable. Richard Brown, who is the former CTO of Hyperledger Fabric blockchain, he's now the CTO of R3 Corda. He says, we're seeing lots of separate business networks being deployed. So Fabric network here and another Fabric network over there, but they're not designed to interoperate. So it's almost like the wrong vision because we have disconnected networks. We have disconnected applications because the underlying architecture was not the right one for business. So imagine if you're on Vodafone and your friend is on Swisscom in Zurich and you're trying to call them. Well, if you were on the Swisscom blockchain and they were on the on the Vodafone blockchain, you wouldn't be able to talk to each other. So interoperability is a massive issue with blockchain now. Every blockchain is a walled garden. And we need to be moving beyond walled gardens. It's no good being decentralized, but decentralized within a walled garden when participants and partners are beyond the garden wall in their particular space. He continues, I argue that interoperable enterprise blockchain platforms need to possess 5 key ingredients of interoperability. As it happens, SDG Ledger covers all 5 of them. He states, we need integration with existing systems. Our ledger does that. We need to be able to initiate transactions on other networks and rails. Arjun does that. We need to be able to transact interchain with solutions on other technologies. SDG Ledger engages that. We need to be able to transact intra-chain with solutions on different deployments of the same technology. And that we need to reduce buyers' remorse by making it easier to interchange one underlying platform for another. And SDG Ledger does that. So the key business sectors and applications within which SDG Ledger allows you, the partner, and especially the interconnected partnership members within the CETS network. These sectors cover fiat currencies, notes, securities, bonds, IOUs, SKRs, safekeeping receipts, barter currencies, oil for food, kilowatt hour, wood, water, gold, carbon offsets and impact currencies such as carbon emission rights, blockchain currencies and interaction Bitcoin, complementary currencies such as frequent flyer miles, fidelity points, and decision currencies like voting rights, for example. Others include documents, handling and interchange, environmental impact and SDGs, market legal rights, and sales management. So we have a universal platform, and for it to be truly universal in its application, in its implementation, and importantly in its transformation, it needs to be able to touch every aspect of humanity. We are, after all, a global human family. I know some people feel a bit disconnected from other parties, but we are actually a human family. It's only when the aliens invade planet Earth do we remember we're a human family, all right? But anyway, we need to be able to engage national governments, local governments, big businesses and industry, small business industry, Internet of Things, central banks, private banks, children and youth, smart city, the aging community, scientific community, women, workers and trade unions, volunteers, persons with disabilities, renewable energy, farmers, indigenous people, NGOs, education, academia, and some examples of how SDG Ledger functions within these key categories. I'm just going to describe how we work within 4 of them: international trade, supply chain and transport, women, and natural resource management and funding. Let's start with women. SDG Ledger enables the women to level inequalities proactively by connecting women to business opportunities, empowering women to efficiently manage micro businesses themselves, their budgets, their shops, and their SMEs. Natural resource management and funding. Organizations and state parties can create digitized asset classes with our digital currency to manage, measure, and trade value in natural resources, supply chain, and transport. One can initiate automation and frictionless transactions to enhance supply chain logistics, transportation, and supply on demand. And international trade. The platform can power frictionless trade finance, customs processes, transportation and logistics, insurance, distribution IP, and procurement payment. And of course, lastly, family offices and impact investors need a platform that is secure, that has traceability, and is a regulated environment. There's more to that, and we can go through that at a different stage. So 3 core components of the platform are the universal wallet, natural resource finance, and how we work with the CETS team and green climate bond system. The universal wallet is an internationally regulated platform that can hold multiple currencies and accounts that create the total balance for users' wallets in one single electronic wallet. The universal wallet's monetary currency balance can be from a credit card, a bank account held in any bank, a cryptocurrency with blockchain, i.e. Bitcoin, for example, or digital currencies as an extension of fiat money centrally managed by a central bank or a commercial bank. And these can include SWIFT messages such as MT7XX and MT103. The key functionalities of the universal wallet, which would enable all participants within a CETS ecosystem, such as an eco-village, for example, include peer-to-peer transactions, and there'll be no intermediaries between these transactions, because all through the platform, through partner banks. Direct conversions and exchanges. Gold can be used as a common value of reference to support all activities, and this actually relates to what Lindsay was just saying a few seconds ago. 24/7/365 real-time settlements, SMS and offline payments is enabled, and we actually deliver a secure browser for the online banking experience. And there's API for third parties to integrate into our system. Now, what's really important here is how do we value natural resource assets such as land or water or gold or whatever, and try and come up to this figure of $2.5 trillion, which we've got to find and to finance the projects annually. Well, natural resource assets of any and within any territory that contributes to a nation's GDP can be registered and benchmarked within a data bank. The data bank powers an exchange of commodities that incorporates key indexes. Natural resources in the data bank key indexes incorporate 3 stages of valuation. 1, geotagged raw materials in the ground. 2, raw materials stored in a vault. And 3, finished goods that are ready for sale. The data bank sectors of assets that constitute the benchmark include, number 1, natural resources such as metals, gold, cobalt, etc. Carbon offsets, carbon credits, and agricultural commodities such as maize, soybean, cotton, trees, etc. Telecoms and energy utilities assets such as gas, electricity, water, solar, hydrogen, for example, and also bonds, bonds and securities and notes such as company stocks, government bonds, and of course, green bonds. Working with CETS and the key partner within the CETS ecosystem that I've identified a number of times in this presentation is obviously the Green Climate Bond Scheme provider, Impact International. The combination of the value that CETS ecosystem is contributing to the world, combined with the formulas and the capacities of Impact International together with the SDG Ledger and the SDG Partners platform, I think that we can contribute significant transformation to our world and to the betterment of humanity. Thank you.
Theo, you just blew me away. You just blew me away, and you have solved so many. Yeah, the aliens also. With so many issues that we have, you have really brought to the forefront. I want everyone that's listening to understand the significance of what Mr. Kosmara has been talking about. He has brought forth technology that can globally, he was talking about interoperable digital ledger platform. That's the key. That is the key. That is really, really significant with smart cities, eco-villages, and everything. Theo, you're brilliant. Everyone here on this panel is so brilliant. I'm so honored to be amongst you. What I would like to do in the last part of our time is for everyone to just have a little roundtable interaction. If we can bring on Lindsay, I don't see you here. You may be here. If we could, you all could, Vincent, let's start a little conversation about CETS and all the partners that are involved here and how this is going to create a nice little organic stew for us to mush on. And thank you, Theo. Thank you, Theo, once again. That was awesome.
Thank you, Theo, for sure. At the end of the day, as CETS mobilize and create its relationships with the members of the UN and the commitments that were made during the Paris Accord to reduce their carbon emissions, we're in a decade to make that happen. 2030 is around the corner. We have to systematically and strategically put together a comprehensive plan of action to make that happen. And it must start with this waste management as waste streams, where it becomes the catalyst for its production and trade globally. What we've laid out is not only a way that we can finance this process, but also the engagement necessary that we need to happen with these public-private and through public-private partnerships, and the commitments that has to be made on both sides, the private sector and the public sector, to get engaged and bring their resources to the table. What Theo didn't lay out, but we are putting a request out that governments bring their natural resources to the table to be placed on our digital ledger, so we can start monetizing and getting the assets and the capital necessary to help them in their transition.
Awesome.
We're in an important time right now, and what we really want to see by the end of 2020 or going into 2021, within the next 12 months, the engagement and the recruitment of those 100 nation states willing to put their assets on the line and on the table so they can become participants in our global carbon emissions reduction program to help them in their transition, getting to a net zero waste to 100% renewable circular economy construct, which is very, very important, because it affects not only the environment, but also the health issues that's going on and that every nation is battling right now. Right. We're willing to put $1.5 billion in our corporate green bonds on the table with matching dollars from those governments in assets to support this transition. So that's the call that we're putting out. And we are creating a 2 million participation database of citizens to bring their skill sets to the table as capital collateral as well. Right. I like to call that our version of the Peace Corps, right? And because we're going to need all hands on deck creating train-the-trainer programs and preparing the minds and the spirits of the citizens so they can be part of this transition as stakeholders. So that's what CETS is putting out there. And we are going to be calling and knocking on doors from here to June 21st, where we actually meet at the Leadership Summit, the UN Compact Leadership Summit in June of 2021, laying out our case study, hopefully in a live session, to show the world how we have integrated all these moving parts to create a holistic plan of action for implementation that can happen now. As a corporate entity and developer, we're ready to go.
Awesome. Gerald, you have something to say?
I think Vince has pretty much kind of wrapped up and encapsulated, where we are and what we're attempting to do. We're just so excited to have the brilliant minds that we have, that we brought together to make this thing happen, because quite frankly, it takes all of them together for this to happen. Each one in and of itself is so important, but it is a piece of the puzzle. And would like to really thank all of the participants here with what they're bringing to the table. And we look forward to working with them to make change in the world.
Awesome. Russ, would you like to say something? I love your company, and you are an integral part of this happening for us.
We're honored to be here. I think, this, working with Theo and Vincent, when we found Vincent, we figured it was a perfect mesh. into integration into a system, you know, holding accountability while having transparency and automation of, you know, waste is such a huge part. You know, you can go anywhere in the world and you see waste everywhere. And holding accountability and transparency, making sure that you can fundamentally track automatically everything that happens that's coming out of a community is really important. And, you know, integrating with Theo's system, that way they can help monetize the process is our vision, and it'll make the world a better place.
Awesome. Daryl, are you here? You'd like to say something, please?
Yes, definitely. It is an honor to be here at the General Assembly and definitely be with all these brilliant minds because, you know, just like Russ said, I mean, it's, you know, we finally put together, I guess you could say, that dream team, you know, that can really make sure that we provide our society with an actual solution, but more importantly, you know, touch the heart before we ask for the hand anything back in return. And that's going to put trust back in people, which is essential to moving forward in any society. And, you know, I'm Vincent and, you know, Mr. Theo, Mr. Gerald and Lindsay, and, you know, Miss Peggy, thank you so much. But I'm just honored to be here. And thank you for having us and our team.
You're awesome. Lindsay, here you are. You have something to say for us, please?
I do. And I want to compliment Gerald and Vincent, of course, and the Eco Village. Once that's set up, it can be replicated. That's the beauty of it. You can go around the world wherever it's needed and put an Eco Village in place. As a matter of fact, I see the rebirth of small town USA and small town Canada and other places in the world. We decimated all our small towns. We don't have rural situations. So it's a global problem that we have to get back to and make centers now that are fully capable with all the technology, the blockchain, and all the different people that are, you know, chomping at the bit, so we can make eco villages virtually anywhere. And that way, again, back to the speed that would accelerate everything on a global basis. And that's a must. So thank you very much for the opportunity to give participation in this talk, and I appreciate everything. And yes, there's some very bright and keen people, so let's march forward.
That's right. And Theo.
Well, thank you, Peggy. Once again, it's a pleasure and an honor to be part of a team with such a mission. I just want to reference very quickly what Lindsay was saying there about getting back to local. For various reasons, some good, some not so good, but everyone's getting back to local. We're not traveling as much as we used to before COVID. And we now recognize the importance of rebuilding value in the local environment that we used to have before automation and corporate objectives, you know, destroyed local economies, sent manufacturing overseas, and suddenly in a catastrophe like we have right now, everyone's scrambling for the basics. May, for example, we sent a rocket into space, but in that same month, we couldn't manufacture masks in our countries. So that says that's an example of how far we've strayed from where we need to be. So getting back to local, of course, we are always universal, all of us. We are one global family, as I was saying. We are that, absolutely. But we need to get back to local, and the CETS vision, what Vincent and Gerald have brought up here, creating these eco-villages where best practices can be brought in and manifested. And it's not just this team. I saw a message from an old colleague of mine, Chip Cummins of RDay. RDay are doing, a quick shout out to them, RDay are doing fantastic work in the renewable energy space. And he's just referenced, so he's engaged from this queue here in what the CETS team is doing. So the transformation has already started to happen. So it's a pleasure, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Theo. Once again, this has been a revolutionary panel. I want to thank all of you and thank the UN for helping to bring us all together. And what I have to say is that we are at a reset. And with this reset, we can now create the world that we envision. And what we are envisioning is smaller government and more individuality. And I am so excited about all the things that you all are doing. And it's definitely everyone that's in this panel and who's listening, this is revolutionary. This is the first time that the world has This is a debut of all this technology and these minds that have come together that are really solving the world's whole economic and human and global emissions problem right here. It's the Eco Village and the global platform that's being created right here, right now. This is history that we're talking about. So we're all a part of this. And I want to thank you all. And I wanted to say that this will be available to be seen in our booth right, I think, tomorrow or later today, if you missed it. And it will be on the UBC TV platform, on the CETS TV. And tomorrow, let me tell you about tomorrow. Tomorrow is the Health Post-COVID-19 session, which I kid you not, I don't think we can get any better than we have done between yesterday and today, but tomorrow's going to be really awesome. And we'll have Theo back again. He has some dramatic news to let the world know. So I thank you all. Thank you, Vincent. Thank you, Gerald. You are two co-founders who are brilliant. I thank you. I'm awesome to be. Thank you, Daryl. Thank you, Russ. Thank you, Theo. And thank you, Lindsay. Have a great day. And visit our booth. We're in the pavilion. We're one of the sponsors. All right. Everybody have a great day, and let's make the world a better place. Let's do a reset.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Take care.